Hi, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. I am just getting started here. So while folks are coming in, say hi. Let me know that you're here and what's going on with you today. And where you're coming from. So here's the thing. It's been a crazy, crazy year. Crazy year. Crazy. So yeah, has it been? Yes, it's been. So here's the thing. Today is the last day of school for my fourth grader. I'm going to be spending a lot of time bragging on him today because it has been a big year for him. It has been a huge. He's had some huge accomplishments this year, and I'm definitely out of practice for live because I'm tripping over myself. So let me know you're here. Say hi. And I'm going to get started by talking about, first of all, my son. If many of you know, I have a 10-year-old. He is just finishing fourth grade today. And I dropped him off at school this morning. And I had to pull him aside. And before I let him go for his last day, we've had a big year. It's been a tough year. Academically for him. There have been a lot of changes and a lot of challenges for him. And he came through this year stronger and he endured so much this year. And I'm just so proud of him. So it started off with a triathlon. He did a triathlon at the very beginning of the school year back in August. He did the Spider-Man 5K in November down at Disneyland. And then just Monday, so it's Thursday the 31st, and just on Monday, he did his first 10K at the Boulder. So this was exciting to me. I really enjoyed kind of guiding him through that. But I'll tell you, and I will get into this a little later as I talk about the Boulder itself, there were some challenges to that race as well. And he handled them all like a champion. So let's talk about first how he managed it, how we trained for it. And I know a few of you guys have asked me how he trains for it, what we've been doing to get him going, and make sure that he's ready for the Boulder. Now, for those of you who may not have heard of this, the Boulder 10K just had its 40th anniversary. It's one of the biggest 10Ks in the United States, if not internationally. I don't know specifically about that last part, but he definitely, this is a big race. And by big race, I mean 50,000 people, a lot of people in this race. They start off the first waves at 7 a.m. And I think the last waves start, I have it over there. The last waves start at, I think, 10. So it's 3 hours of rolling start, all of these waves. And then they have an elite race, which is quite impressive to see these folks finish up. So let me know if you guys can hear me, if you can see me okay, and let me know that you're checking in and where you're coming from. So the Boulder, for the most part, is a net uphill, which is not fun. It's tough. It's the first mile and a half is a net uphill. And, I want to make sure if you guys, I need somebody to check in because some messages, let's see what happens here. So let me know if you guys are here. I'm just checking on making sure I see who's here. There we go. Okay. So the Boulder is a net uphill in the first 2 miles already. And then it doesn't really let up. There aren't a lot of significant downhill portions of the race. The fun part about the Boulder is that we have, it's a citizens race, and the entire town really comes out and watches the whole thing. And because it winds all the way through Boulder, the whole town shuts down. I mean, all of the streets are closed. There's really only one major inroad to get into the interior of Boulder. And if you don't get in before the race starts, then you're kind of out of luck. Used to be that I would, when I went to school up there, I would leave. I wanted nothing to do with that many people in one place. So I would leave town. But for the first time, I did the Boulder a couple of years ago. I loved it. And now it's one of those races that I really want to see how well I can do from year to year. So with this net uphill, though, it makes the race kind of a challenge. And on top of that, if you were to look at a course map, there are a lot of turns. I mean, just so many 90-degree turns. I mean, they're not a lot of out and backs, but there are a lot of turns in this race, which don't really lend themselves to really getting up some speed consistently, as well as, add to that, you have the uphill factor. So we started out, we were way back in the N group. There are 97 waves in this race. Okay, let's think about that for a second. What is the largest race you've done? Let me know in the comments. What is the largest race you've ever done, population-wise, participant-wise? And, as kind of a comparison, this one is at least 50,000. So it's a big race to begin with. And then you have these smaller waves. And with 97 waves, you really only have a few hundred people per wave. Oh, there we go. Okay. For some reason, I wasn't getting a lot of these chats. Now I just have like 10 of them come up. That's perfect. So yeah, it was big. It was a big race. We were way back in NB. So they take each letter of the alphabet, A and B and C, and then they break those down even further. So it's A, B, A, C, and so on and so forth. So we were in NB. Now, the two reasons why I think I was put way back, even though I've participated in this race before, Boulder will take your previous race times and plug you in where they think you'd fit for the following year. But two reasons why I think I was put back a little further. This was my son's first race, and he's never done a 10K. So I made it pretty easy for him to, give him a lot of time to finish the race. And I also registered under a different name. I registered under my married name. So they're like, who's this Heather Freeland person? She doesn't exist in the system. So we'll put her way back here. It's totally fine. What I did find, though, was, and for those of you who have done Disney races, you know that, especially the longer races, the half marathon and the full, the further back you get in the field, the more congested it can get. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I know that if you're up earlier in the race, you don't have as many people around you. The congestion is not as great. So the same is true for this race. I started last year, I believe, in D. I don't know if that's correct. I know I started in F 2 years ago. But this year I started way back in N, and that's mostly walkers. I love that there are this many people, but it was a challenge mentally for me because I'm dodging and weaving around all of these people. And my son and I we can run this race. So if you're way back and you're weaving through all of the walkers, it becomes a challenge, not just for the runner, but also for the walker, right? If you're deliberately walking the race and you just keep getting plowed over by the runner, there's very little in the way of race etiquette at times during some of these races. So that was a new challenge for me. And then add to that, making sure that out of the corner of my eye somewhere, I knew where my son was. Now that's fun because we have run together before. He knows how to find me. I know how to find him. And I said, no matter what you do, just keep running. I will make sure I stick with you. You might not see me, but I will stick with you. So there were times where we'd split off and he'd be mom. And I'm like, right here, buddy. But it worked out really, really well. In the morning on Monday, it was cooler. It had rained the night before. It rained a little bit that morning. So the cloud cover was perfect. It wasn't so hot that I couldn't, last year it was ridiculously hot. This year it stayed cool for a good chunk of the race. I'm not talking to you, Siri. That's okay. Does that ever happen to anybody? Like you just start talking and she starts talking back to you? Anyway, it was cooler for the early parts of the race. And then we get into mile 3 and 4 and the streets got narrower. The sun came out and it got to be a little bit of a challenge. I carried water with me, even though this course is extremely well supported. So I always had water in case my son needed it. My husband also participated in this race. He walked. He was put in Corral F, which was fantastic. So he walked the entirety of the race. Here's the thing. Here's just some perspective on how big this race is. So he was in FJ, all right? And his wave went off at 7:24. My wave went off at, 8:55. So he was done. He walked the whole course and was done. He crossed the finish line when we crossed the start line. Huge, huge race. So my son and I were running along and he wanted to do a Galloway style run walk. Because the last time we ran together, we did 4 miles together. We started playing with that Galloway run walk system. So we settled on 90 seconds running, 45 seconds walking. It worked okay, but I didn't have it programmed in my Garmin, so I just kind of guessed. And so there were times when we were running for 3 or 4 minutes, and my son would say, "Can we walk now?" Oh, yeah, sorry. So he handled it like a champ. And especially once the race got warm, I was starting to really pay attention to how he was handling the heat. And there were times where I couldn't quite tell, maybe he's not doing well. And then he'll just start going, "Oh, hey, mom, check this out over there." It's like, he just absolutely was not affected at all by the heat or the distance. So handled it like a champ. I also made sure that we were walking in the right places. So there's one solid hill at about 4 miles. And the summit of the course is, they even have a banner above where the highest point of the course is. It's like it's 6,300 feet. I have to look at my phone. I don't remember. But I want to say it's like 6,300 feet is the the course summit. And so we got a selfie there. We took pictures. The fun part about this race, you know what? I'm gonna get into that in just a second. I want to say hi to everybody who's here. I see Key Lime is here. Linda's here. Thomas, nice to see you guys. Buddy, hi. Nicole and Little Miss Makeup. So I just wanted to thank you for inspiring me in beginning my running journey. Did my first 5K at Disney and my first 10K last week. Good for you. Congratulations. Well done. How did it feel? I would love to hear how your 10K last week went. So Disney, Linda, you're responding to the largest race you've done, Disney. Those are big races. Rock and roll races are also pretty big. Thomas is, Corral A is great. Yeah, that, I'm sure it is. That's one of those things. And Key Lime, you said it exactly right. In my world, the A Corral is like a mythical unicorn. I know it's there. It's kind of like Santa Claus. Maybe we don't see it, but we know it exists, right? So hi, guys. Welcome. If you are just joining me, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know you're here. But I want to talk about the fun parts about the Boulder. Because it's a citizens race and the entire town after 40 years is kind of, if they aren't into it, they've at least resigned themselves to the fact that this is going to be a thing every Memorial Day. So what they do, so you'll see some residents will have a slip and slide out. Okay. If you don't know what a slip and slide is because you don't have kids or don't know, it's a plastic sheet, and you spray water on it and you can slide right across it. Well, it was one of the biggest attractors for my son. And he's like, I'm doing the slip and slides. It's kind of like when I was doing the Disney marathon. I was like, I'm going to ride Expedition Everest. This was his Expedition Everest. So he decided, and I knew there were at least 2 on the course. I wasn't sure if there were any more. But actually, once we started, the sun had just come out, and we were just trucking along. And within the first quarter mile, half mile, there's a trampoline run. So there's a line for this trampoline run. And I said, hey, do you want to do this? So we stood in line for a couple of minutes. He's like, no, I'm just going to go. Let me go look at it, and then I'll decide if I want to do it. And he's like, it's just, I don't know. I want to run. So, okay, let's run. So we ran the first mile. Once we got to finished the first mile, that was the first slip and slide. So he did that, and he did the slip and slide, loved it. And so eventually, one of the things that's going to happen here, once I get caught back up again, I think this might be the mythical unicorn thing again. I'm going to get caught up. We'll get to that later in this conversation. But he did the slip and slide. I did not do the slip and slide. I don't feel like it's safe for me to do a slip and slide. I don't like getting my feet wet, first of all. But it just looked like it was a way for me to get hurt. Yeah. So he did the slip and slide. We moved on, did a couple. There's a Dorito stop. There's a bacon stop. There are, there's entertainment, but not like the entertainment that you see at a lot of races. I saw maybe 2 cheer squads and 2 bands. And they were from the local schools. But otherwise, you see like the belly dancer group out there. And a lot of the fun things that make Boulder what it really is. And Boulder's just kind of a fun college town that has always had its own personality. So then we came to the second, it started getting really hot. And that's when all of the residents would have their hoses out and they would spray people as they went by. One of the things that started to annoy me, though, is that they didn't care that I didn't want to get, I would try to stay away from the hoses. My son would stay away from the hoses. He didn't want to get wet until the next slip and slide. So it became an issue when, not everybody wants to get wet, right? Not everybody wants to get soaked with water because it can create other problems. Okay. It can create chafing problems and you can get blisters in your feet if your shoes get wet. So that added to the congestion. So if you imagine a street that's 2 lanes wide with room for cars to park, so it's about 4 lanes wide. But then the residents are starting to spill into the streets a little bit and it starts to get congested. So you're not only weaving around, walkers are supposed to stay right, runners stay to the left. And for the most part, that works. But with all of the turns in this course, you end up with runners kind of skirting and running the tangent against a right-hand turn where all the walkers are. So it becomes, it's definitely an exercise in people management. Okay. So running around other people, it's huge. It's just such a big race. Stephanie, hi. Thank you for joining us. So if you guys have questions for me about anything, about any of the running, any of the races that I've done recently, it's been a great month. If you haven't seen, this is part of the technical difficulty that I had this past week. I actually shot a video on Saturday for you guys. It was an update, and it was a race recap for Ogden. And literally at that point, my computer just said, no, I'm full. I can't take any more information. You got to do something about it. So I said, I can't. I just can't right now, not with a race coming up. So I just put all of it away and decided not to post the video. So I just couldn't do anything about that. So sorry about that. That was basically an issue of this poor computer. 70% of what is on the hard drive here is video. Yeah. And it's all old video, so it's nothing new or fancy. I'm just saying it's all old video. So let me know you guys are here. I think there might be an issue with the chat. I'm just seeing a couple people kind of sporadically come in. Usually I have quite a bit of chatter going on. So let me know, ask a question, make a statement, just throw something in here. Because something's going on with the chat. I don't know. There we go. Thank you. Yes, Thomas, I just got that. Thank you. Okay, perfect. So just ask me questions. Let me know what you guys are thinking. So that was the Boulder. My son, when he ran this, it was mile 5. We hit a downhill, and the rest of the race, the clouds had come back out, and the rest of the race, he was just looking so strong. And I'm just jogging along. This was a nice, easy kind of recovery run for me. But he's just trucking along, having a great time. The last 0.2 miles, as you finish the race, you make a right-hand turn, you go up a hill, and you go into the stadium. This is Folsom Stadium at the University of Colorado. And it's a huge finish. I mean, you are running through a stadium where all of the runners who have come before you, across the finish line before you, are in the stands. And they're all everybody's hanging out around the outside, and they're high-fiving. And this will all come in a recap. My son handled it like a champ. He is running by, high-fiving everybody. And now we knew this before we went into this. His math teacher this year is on the board for the Boulder. She's a Boston marathoner. She's been running forever. And by forever, I kind of do mean forever. Here's the thing. She's been teaching longer than I've been alive. I love her. I think she's amazing, and she has been so good for my son. But when I realized that, I'm like, wow, okay. But because she was on the board, she was on the field, on Folsom Field, during the finish. So she was right at it's a U. You come into the stadium, you go around, and then you end up on the other side. And my son was looking for her. She was wearing the brightest neon green. We would never have missed her. So she was right on the field. My son comes trucking up to her, gives her a high five, and takes off. I thought at least he would stop for a hug, right? No. He's like, high five, take off. And I'm watching him run. He just all of a sudden, the turbo blasters went on, and he just took off, finished the last 100 yards across the finish line. And I'm like, oh, bye. I'll see you at the finish. Didn't even look back. Didn't look back. So it was amazing to see. And then he finished, and he felt really good. And so that's 23 minutes of me bragging on my kid. It's probably enough, right? So let's go back to the end of school for us. Okay, today is the last day of school. As I mentioned, I just finished my first season of Sarah, hi, nice to see you here. I just finished my first season of high school track, and now I need to train for my cross-country season coming up. Do you have any tips for structuring the training week? So getting into cross-country, what are your events, Sarah? Are you doing 5Ks in your high school? So is 5K the longest? Orient me a little bit with that, because I don't know a lot about high school cross-country. And, maybe give me a few ideas of what distances you're looking at. and I can help you out with that. So, with the end of school coming up, like in 2 hours, I have an interesting dilemma. Okay, so I have my son is in camps fairly frequently throughout the summer, but he's also home a lot. I have had a struggle this year because I don't mean for this to sound bad. I don't know how I'm going to say it without it sounding awful. But since I got married, my son or my husband works at home and he's always here. When before he moved in, I could shoot and edit, upload however long I felt like it. But he's here, he's on the phone. So it's hard for me to concentrate in order to write something to bring you guys. And then I have to basically kick him out to go to the library. In fact, that's where he is now. So he's very gracious. Like I said, I don't mean for this to sound bad. He's gracious when I ask him for this kind of time, but this is a hobby for me. His job kind of comes first as far as, what needs to get done. So I have struggled this year with getting video up when it needs to go up. So I'm dealing with that a little bit as we go. And this month, I was hoping to have everything done for you. Everything. I just shot a video just before I came on, so that'll be coming up for next week. But I'm really going into June with my hair on fire. So gone are the days of Veda and planning and shooting and editing and uploading way ahead of time. So I hope that you guys stick around and subscribe, and I'm going to try to stay consistent with these videos. But yeah, it's been a challenge. It has been, especially this month with all of the travel and all of the races. So we'll see what happens. So Sarah, let's go back to Sarah here. 800s for track and cross country. I see. Okay. So you just finished high school track and now you're switching into a longer distance. So you've been doing a half mile, 800 meters for track, and now we're switching over to cross country. I'm guessing what you did a lot of, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you did a lot of shorter, faster reps, right? For 800s. You did a lot of strength building, making sure you have that explosive power for your 800s, which is somewhat helpful when you get to a 5K. But what you're really looking for a 5K is, and with that 5K, you're looking at what really, let's see, half mile, you're looking at like 6 times that, right? So what you want to do with cross-country season coming up in the fall, possibly, over the summer, just extend your runs. So think about running longer, more frequently. And you can still add those types of 800 workouts. So whatever you were doing to make yourself ready and competitive for that 800, you can still do those. I would just not do them as frequently. Or if you had intervals, extend them a little bit. So instead of the super short, 200 bursts of speed, 400 bursts of speed, make those 800 to 1,000, okay? And do as many sets of those or work up to that. And then when you get into like a weekend, long run, for a 5K, you're not out there for hours. You're out there for maybe 20 minutes if you're as fast as I would, guess that you are. A 5K for cross country. And I would also assume that for cross country, you are either on crushed gravel or even pavement, sidewalk type stuff. I know around here we are. For that, definitely mix up your terrain. because that's what cross country is, right? So start mixing up your terrain again, get off the track more frequently to get yourself ready for that cross country season. If you are hitting, and so you're going to be looking at, you've got what, 3 months, 2 months before cross country season starts. I know for us, it starts first week of September for the middle school here anyway. But I hope that helps, Sarah. I think you have, if you've already finished a high school track season and you're getting ready, Sarah, what year are you in high school or going into? Because those, honestly, I think you have a solid foundation on the track to cross over into cross country when you get closer, like, July and August. Make sure you're getting 4 to 5 miles in on the weekends, and adjust your pace expectations. You're not going to take your 800 pace and drop it into a 5K. Okay. So if you were, I have no clue, but if you're doing an 800 in what, a minute? I don't know. I'm kind of making it up. I'm thinking of something ridiculously fast. So whatever ridiculously fast you are, don't take that pace and then automatically assume that pace is going to translate for every 800 across a 5K. Check out Macmillan Calculator. If you go into macmillancalculator.com and if someone wants to find that and drop it in there, you can actually figure out how to adjust your pace expectation for the 5K. You're going into 10th grade. Okay, great. Yes, I'm glad this helps. So add that mileage in. So just start thinking about going out for a nice, easy jog. Okay, 30 minutes. You probably can finish 3 miles still in about 20 minutes. You're nice, you're young, you've got fresh legs, and yes, you've just come off of a hard track season, but think about the consistency instead of power. Does that make sense? Hopefully that does. So let me know if I can help you any further with that. Dave. Hi, Dave. Welcome. I did my first trail run in 4 years. How long was the trail run? Congratulations. Nice job. Hi, Heather. Oh, hello. Yes, and you are getting ready for Paris? Yes. Hi, Heather. In making the transition from walk-run strategy to more running. Yes, I'm working on that for you. How do you know if you're pushing too much or not enough? Oh, awesome. Thank you, Sarah. How do you know if you're pushing too much or not enough? That's the talk test. Start there. So if you are jogging along, and I don't like using the word jogging because it has gained some kind of negative vibe to it. It really is a jog. When we are talking about running in terms of, it's that scale, right? Well, I was just talking about this, talking with you, Sarah. You can be running at an 800 and it is super, super fast. When you get into a 5K, you are running, but you're running slower. When you are talking about a marathon, you are running, but you're running even slower. We're talking paces per mile. So when we're talking about running, whether or not you're pushing too hard, think about the talk test. Think about conversation pace. What this means is that as you're plugging along, I like to, because I don't run with anybody, I'd like to talk to the podcast that's in my ears or the book or whatever it is, or I'll sing along. I'm not singing like I would normally be singing, but I'm just kind of, plugging along and talking to myself. And, luckily there aren't too many people that walk by and say, wow, she's talking to herself. And of course, in this day and age of, Bluetooth headsets and being on the phone and just talking to yourself while you're out, it's normal anymore, right? So try to talk in short phrases. In my coaching seminar, one of the things that he said is the Brady Bunch song. If you know the Brady Bunch song, then good for you. If you don't know the Brady Bunch song, I can't help you. It just means that I'm older than I want to be. So the Brady Bunch song is, here's the story of a man named Brady, or I don't even know if I have the words right. So if you're thinking of it that way, here's the story, da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da. With every break, you're taking a breath in, okay? If you can do that, then you're probably at a good pace without feeling like you have to stop and take a deep breath and you in the middle of all of that. So you should be able to talk really with short phrases. And if you're running with a friend, that's actually a really good way to determine that as well. So it's an excellent question. And it's only something that that I've learned recently. Like, it's something I've always known. The other piece of that is that if you train with a heart rate monitor, be cognizant of where that sits. You should, if you can, you need to know where your lactate threshold is, and that's a whole other conversation. But if you have a good idea of where your heart rate is supposed to be in that aerobic zone, you're talking zone 1, zone 2, I wouldn't go any higher than zone 2 for now, especially since you, Heather, are learning to consistently run as opposed to run walk. That if you are working on that, then be cognizant of where those first few miles are going to sit. As you run, the longer you run, there is something called a cardio drift, which means that you could be running 12-minute miles at a nice, easy pace, 12-minute miles for 7 miles consistently on the same kind of terrain, but that heart rate will slowly creep up and you will end up in a higher zone than where you started. That's fine, but somewhere within that first few miles, if you have a really good idea of what your heart rate is doing, that might be a good touchstone as well. But start with that conversation, and that, I don't know if that does that help. Oh, good. That is amazing. I love that. Okay, what's a Brady Bunch? It's a TV show from the 70s. Dave, it's just great that you guys over there on the other side of the pond, you guys are so fun. I worry that I know I have a few of you from that watch from the UK and parts over there. Half the time I wonder if what I say just makes no sense because this is America and it gets confusing. I did see that. I'm having some injury issues. Not injury, that's a little dramatic, but all of the things that were flaring up last spring are flaring back up again because I'm terrible at foam rolling. Again, different concept altogether. So let's go back. I want to say a couple of things here. So yes, Heather is preparing for Paris. And Dave is talking about the English weather. And yeah, it is bright sunshine here today, and it is super hot. And this is the time of year where being up here in my office is uncomfortable at best. So this is the time of year where I start to retreat to the basement where it's about 10 degrees cooler in the house. Then let's see. I know you have experience with triathlons. Hi, William. My mom, who is 65 years old, is training for her first sprint triathlon. Wow. She has a background in running. Do you have any advice for her? Well, I would first ask, how's her swim? That is the hardest part. That's the hardest part, right? For a lot of people. I backed into triathlon because I started as a swimmer. I was never a runner until I was in my late 30s, really. I never liked running. I didn't enjoy it when I would play tennis. We would have, do laps around the courts and all of that. Never liked it. Never enjoyed running. I was a swimmer first, always had been. So if your swim can if her swim is if she's comfortable in the water and she feels like she can finish, what is it, a quarter of a mile? It's an 800-meter swim. Then that might help with her confidence going into a triathlon. I think it's amazing, first of all, that at 65 she's doing that. So please relate my kudos to her. I am extremely impressed with that. That's huge, because triathlon is not a little thing. Even if you're doing a sprint, which is an 800-meter swim, a 25K bike, and a 5K run, they're quick, but they feel like they take forever because you have 3 sports and you have so much more. I could spend an entire year just talking about doing your first triathlon. I could spend 52 videos literally talking about solely triathlon. I wanted to do that as this channel got started, but I kind of made it exclusively running. But I digress. I guess if I were to boil it down into a few nuggets, make sure you're comfortable on the swim. Try not to get overwhelmed by the gear. There is a lot of gear, okay? You do have to think about quite a bit more in triathlon than you do for running a running exclusive event. Open water swims too, I think are important to cover. If you have access to, if it's an open water race, which means if it's in a lake or the ocean, some open body of water, as opposed to a pool, try to go do that a couple of times, because it's amazing, even for a veteran swimmer like myself, when I go swim in an open body of water that's cloudy and I can't see it very well, I get a little apprehensive and a little nervous. So I would suggest that. I would also suggest, if she can, with some support, maybe you help her out, maybe you follow her in the car, I would suggest riding and running the course as well, if possible. I know that's not always possible. Here up in Boulder, where they do all of the triathlons, it is possible to ride those courses fairly frequently. So she has a background in running. I would say then, as far as training, don't worry about the running. Worry about the brick workouts, okay? So if you're going to do a run, do a bike ahead of time, because the way your legs feel after being on a bike and then you go out for a run, they call it a brick workout for a reason, because that's how your legs feel, okay? So brick workouts, do 45 minutes on the bike, and then get off and jog for a mile or two. Feel that difference. William, I hope you can take some of this. And like I said, there's so much more to talk about. I would suggest a couple of things. Okay. If you can get your hands on a copy of, let me find it. Give me a minute. This book right here, Triathlons for Women, by Sally Edwards. Okay. This is huge. This is a little bit of an older copy. I don't even know if it exists anymore. I'm assuming it does. Sally Edwards was my first experience with, she did a lot with the Danskin triathlons. She exposed me first to Heart Zone training. So before I even started training with MK Fleming, she was my first experience with that. So if you're looking for a lot of good information, this is a great place to start. So she was, or is, I should never say was, she's an Ironman world champion. She's been to Kona and has done a lot of that. So her passion project in the late 90s and early aughts was the Danskin Women's Triathlon. And it really opened the door for a lot of women to experience a non-competitive atmosphere for triathlon. Now, the playing field has kind of evened out a little bit, especially in those shorter races. You have a lot more women in these co-ed races, but this is a really great place to start. Also, the other one I want to tell you about is Train. I don't know when her race is. Train Like a Mother. They have .club. Let me see if I can find it, because if I can, I'll drop the link. There is, this is a retreat that I just went to during the Ogden Half Marathon. And you have women from all walks of life, of many different age groups. And they also have a triathlon program. Let me see, Try Like a Mother triathlon program. So they have a training plan, and I will drop that link in there right now. Okay. So just one place to look, William. Hopefully that helps out. Between that and the book, I could sit here and talk triathlon all day, even though I haven't done one in a couple of years. There's so much more that goes into it. Then that definitely helps. Thank you for your advice. I am so excited. I'm thrilled to hear that she's going to do her first sprint try with. And hopefully she catches the bug, finds out how much fun it is, and then she keeps going. So good for her. And thank you for asking the question, and let her know that I'm cheering for her, and come back. Let me know how she does. So that is great information. And if you are planning, if you've ever thought about doing a triathlon, they're just so fun. And you can find some really small local mini tries, even just to give it a try. But that you can go in and do races just to see if you even like it. You can start it. Sometimes they have these mini tries are like 400 meters in the pool, or maybe like 3 laps in the pool. You finish and you jump on a bike and you ride a mile or 2 miles or 5 miles. And then you jump off and you run a mile. They're super small, and they might have smaller fields. The other nice thing about triathlons is that the fields by design have to be smaller. You're not talking 20,000 people. You're not talking 50,000 people. I think the largest field I ever participated in was Ironman Coeur d'Alene, and that might have been 5,000. I don't know if it was that big. So just, a couple of things to think about it if you're at all interested in triathlon. Also, guys, if you're still hanging out with me and if you want more triathlon information, I'd be happy to talk about that. And I don't know, race is June 17th. Perfect. Yeah. Let me know how it goes. Let's see. Okay. Any other questions? We are coming up on the top of the hour already. Holy moly. Wow. Time flies when you're having fun. I still can't swim. Yes. Swimming is one of the things to to make sure we can do, stick to running. I am not a fan of the bike, which it's interesting because a lot of cyclists really like triathlon, and I'm not a fan of the bike. I use the cycling as cross training now for my running, and I haven't been in the pool in a couple of years, not to actually swim laps, but yeah. So switching over to running has been kind of interesting. That kind of leads into the last thing I want to sort of mention, because I'm going to talk about this in an upcoming video. Many of you were around when Oh, yes, I want to get back to that. Many of you were around when I mentioned I was going to do this Runner's World strength training regimen that was in the Star Wars event guide. Do you guys remember that? Yes. I've been doing it. And I want to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to do some demos. So I have seen a major change. One of the things that I've noticed from leaving, if you will, triathlon and doing running exclusively, I have lost almost all of my upper body strength. That being said, I have made it a point to do a lot more upper body strength training because I'm getting a lot of that. I'm getting a lot of the lower body, with the running, but my upper body just can't support all of that running. So I've been adding that in, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. I've got a couple more questions. Hello. Hi, Kimberly. Hi. Hello. What are you expecting from Disney tomorrow regarding registration? I actually haven't had my finger on that pulse. I have seen it come up a couple of times. If they said June 1st, then unless we have heard otherwise so far, I'm guessing it's going to go forward as planned. As far as I think there's always more buzz generated than what actually comes to fruition. This past year, 2018, was a big year because it was the 5th anniversary of the Dopey and the 25th anniversary of the marathon. So I think it sold out fairly quickly. There are no anniversaries this year, so I don't know that you're going to see quick sellouts except for the 5 and the 10Ks. Those sell out super fast because you can get families involved in those, and they're smaller. They're a bit smaller as far as the field is concerned. So as far as registration goes, I think you'll get in. If you're signing up for Dopey, I don't see that selling out. And I could be totally wrong. Okay. I could be completely wrong on this. This is just my guess. I think Dopey, Marathon, Goofy. I think the Dopey will sell out first. I think the half marathon for the distance stuff, the half marathon will sell out. Let me go back a little bit. 5K, 10K, those sell out first, no matter what. After that, it'll be the half marathon and probably the Dopey. The full and the Goofy will take the longest, probably. But I don't expect those to sell out for a while. And by a while, I mean maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a month, maybe never. I know 2 years ago, the Goofy and the full didn't sell out until maybe 2 months out so like October. And they opened registration in April. Anyway, 2020 is an anniversary for Wine and Dine. So I don't know, Kimberly, if that helped. Like I said, I haven't been keeping my finger on that pulse. Buddy, let's see. I recently found out I have arthritis in my knee. I've been to see my ortho doc. I think I got something from you too, buddy. I've been to see my orthodox. Keep moving. It'll help. If that's what your doctor says, trust him first. I'm not a doctor, and I have heard this and I believe it. And it's one of those things that if you don't use it, you lose it. So yes, arthritis can cause a lot of problems. But if you keep moving, I have heard that I would agree with that statement from your doc, mostly because he's your doc. So hopefully that helps. I'm going to wrap up here in a few minutes, you guys, but let's jump on a couple other comments. I think 2020 is an anniversary for Wine and Dine. Postponing Disney events next year to get a jump on my 50 states of races on my bucket list. You know what? I just started my list too. I was trying to figure out how many I've done. I think I have like 6 or 7 states so far, which is, I think it's kind of sad, but I don't know. Let's see. Linda says, still undecided about marathon weekend. Would like to do Goofy and the full to stay open as long as possible. I'm kind of on that train right now too. Star Wars, we're doing wine and dine, and then as a family, we're going to go down for Star Wars. Whether or not I'm in Florida in January is entirely up to our vacation budget. We still have to pay for wine and dine, and that's coming up. I'm not, and then once bibs go on sale for Star Wars, I want to snap those up as fast as possible. And then we'll have to pay for that. So in the middle there, if we get, I would probably go down to Florida by myself and room with people. I don't exactly know how I would do if I did Walt Disney World Marathon weekend at all. So that's kind of where I'm sitting. Do you think you'll do a meetup at Wine and Dine? Probably. That's all I can tell you. It's one of those things I haven't even put any thought. Usually by now I've planned the entire trip minute by minute. And it has been such a crazy year that I'm kind of overloaded on Disney, and I need to take a step back from it. Still thinking, Cindy says, I'm still thinking the 26th running of the marathon with 26 miles. That's a good point, Cindy. I'll bet you they would. Except that they didn't do that for 24th. I don't know. Did they? Because where was the 24th mile? 24th mile is on the boardwalk somewhere. I don't know. Maybe they would. Did the full in 17 and signed up after Avengers in November. Yeah, the full in 2017 just never really filled up. And I think they were giving away bibs. Heather says, I would love to do all the Disney races in Florida for the 50th. Ooh, now there's a goal. 50th anniversary of the Magic Kingdom is coming up, which is why if you've been there recently, you've seen all this construction, and I've heard people complain, oh my gosh, it's so ugly. Guess what? This is what they're thinking of. So it's the 50th anniversary coming up for Magic Kingdom and the Disney parks. I think that's a really good goal. I know Gerald from Resrons, is trying to do all of the Disney races this year. So he's done everything in January, everything in February. I don't know if he's doing the virtuals. He did Star Wars. He's going down to Wine and Dine, and he's going to Paris. Guys, if you have any further questions, now is the time. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. It just helps out the channel. It helps give this a little bit more visibility after the fact. What Linda says, I selfishly say you should do it before the party and not Friday. That, I think, is what's happening. If I were to pick a time, if that time is entirely up to me, then yes, Gerald is going to Paris. Oh, you didn't know that. Okay. Yeah. Gerald is going to Paris. Yeah. So start bugging him. In fact, I don't know where he's kind of MIA. I haven't heard from him in a long time. So yes, Linda. Yeah. I think we'll have to do something, somewhere in Epcot before the party. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Here's what's coming up. What is coming up? I have a weekend update coming for you on Saturday or Sunday. Okay. Tuesday, Dave, you asked this question and I had already planned on doing it. So I'm just going to give you credit for the idea. Talking about running at altitude. Okay. If you live and train at altitude and then travel to sea level, it's super easy, but going the other way is a lot harder. So on Tuesday, I've got a video about that. What else? After that, I'm not really sure what's happening. Like I said, school's out, all bets are off. So hopefully I will get you guys some good videos. If you guys have any ideas for content, let me know. After the fact, shoot me a message on Grace and Pretzel's Facebook page. If you are doing Wine and Dine and want a training plan from me, designed by me, okay? If you want that, head over to Grace and Pretzels and send me a message. I will then, we will have a conversation about how we're going to do that. And Heather, I know we're already talking about getting you running for Paris and all that good stuff. So there's lots of big things happening. So just head over to Grace and Pretzel's Facebook page. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to call it today, you guys. So thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you for hanging in there with me with technological issues and just scheduling things. So thank you guys so much. That's going to be it for me today, guys. See you next time. Go find your awesome. Happy running.